Hi, welcome back to the Week 3 edition of the Daily Record High School Football Insider. I'm sports editor Aaron Dorksen, along with sports writer Mike Plant, and our producer-director Dan Starcher is behind the scenes there. Mike, Week 2 was an exciting week. We kind of said leading up to it on this show and when we went on WQKT radio that it's always hard to predict the scores. Maybe something that looked one way in Week 1, you don't know exactly how good the teams are that our local teams beat or lost to. You know, one example of that, I covered the game Triway 29, Orville 20 on the new turf. Some people looked at it as a big upset. I said all week I thought it would be pretty close. You know, some other close games. What were some things that stood out at you? I know you were at a big win for Worcester.
Yeah, the Generals got the first win under Doug Haas, coming back from a deficit late in the fourth quarter on 2 touchdown passes from Cam Doherty to Darian Owens to beat Wadsworth 20-14. And Aaron, I was really impressed in that game by Worcester's defense throughout, especially the trio of defensive end Grant Stokes spent a lot of time in Wadsworth's backfield, along with linebackers Kevin Kamara and Mason Tomlin. And all three of them had real big games, and Wadsworth coach Greg Dennison was very impressed with Worcester's defense and said they were just too physical for the Grizzlies. Another big win, Northwestern got another revenge victory after beating Black River. Malachi Noletti, the junior quarterback, continues to have an outstanding start to his season. He racked up over 300 yards of offense. And on the downside, the Rittman Indians lost a golden opportunity, I think, for a victory, losing in the final seconds to the Cleveland Knights, a team from the Cleveland area of homeschooled kids, and they'll try to bounce back this week, Aaron.
You know, getting back to the game I was at, Triway beating Orville, what a turnaround in 1 year. It looks like the Titans could be headed for. They won just 2 games last year. Orville beat them something like 50-7. They turned the tables on the Red Riders, spoil a grand opening on the new Heartland Field turf. Sophomore Parker Carmichael's poise, throwing the ball, even added a 40-yard touchdown run. Kyle Kearney really looked like a good wide receiver, played well on defense. Nate Jeanette, a speedy little back. And then there were some other guys that really stepped up for Triway, so it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. I think the Principal's Athletic Conference looks pretty wide open. All of a sudden, just beating Orville, you're thinking, wow, they could maybe be headed to the playoffs if they keep it up. And, you know, Orville will try to bounce back. They just really couldn't get their offense going. It's not too many Orville teams I've seen have that much trouble just completing passes. So, but, you know, they'll just have to bounce back. Norwayne, 28, CBC 8-12, Brady Berger. He's going to be our daily record athlete of the week. Had a great game on offense and defense. It's really in the WCL shaping to look like a big 3 right now. There's 3 teams that are 2-0. Hillsdale got a big win, 41-23 over Bucyrus, as Corbin Mager had 4 touchdowns. And that sets up a nice game against Loudville.
Today, there are more ways than ever to get all of your area sports and news in the Daily Record.
That's right. In addition to our print edition, you can follow us online at www.the-daily-record.com. Follow our sports blog at worcestersports.com. Follow our video High School Football Insider on Thursdays, and also Mike and myself are even on the Pigskin Preview on WQKT on Thursday nights at 6.
So you can listen, you can watch, you can read, and you can surf online. And subscribe. Call the Daily Record today at 330-264-1125. Welcome back to the Daily Record's High School Football Insider. Aaron, we're heading into Week 3 this Friday, the last week of the non-conference schedule for all of our area teams dip into their league races. And we'll start out, Orville goes over to Copley with a tough test against the explosive Copley Indians. It's been a great series, I think, the last few years. Been very close games, including an overtime game there the last time the 2 played. The Red Riders will try to bounce back from a tough loss, and they'll have to corral Copley's outstanding running back, Erigeros Turner, a Division I prospect. West Holmes travels down Route 83 to Coshocton. The Knights are off to a nice 2-0 start. Lane Perone had 5 TDs. a week ago in a big win over Riverview, as the Knights look to complete their non-league season, part of their season at 3-0. And Aaron, I know you're taking a trek up to your former stomping grounds up by Chagrin Falls to see Worcester take on the two-time defending, two-time state runner-up in the Chagrin Falls Tigers.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat matchup. I mean, in my 15 years of the Daily Record, I don't think one of our area teams has played up in Geauga County, where I went to high school at Chardon, and Chagrin Falls was in our league. They were good then, they're good now. In fact, they're really good. They're better than they used to be when I was there. 40-4 the last 3 years. That includes last year they lost in the state semifinals. 2 years before that, they were state runners-up. So when new athletic director Andy Keller looked at some things, he felt like Worcester needed to upgrade its schedule. I mean, this is, as far as a mid-sized school, you really can't get a much better opponent than this. So Worcester, coming off the opening loss to Garfield, and they bounced back with a huge win against Wadsworth. Cam Doherty hooked up with Darian Owens and with a couple late touchdown passes. This Chagrin Falls team has some guys playing as seniors who we covered as sophomores when they beat Orville pretty handily in the state semifinals. They have a really good running back linebacker, Jack Campbell, the coach's son, Tommy Imarino, some other guys. So pretty tall order, but I think this is what a school like Worcester needs to do, to build their program and start seeing what playoff football is really all about. And then, of course, in the WCAL, there's a trio of teams that are looking to go 3-0. How about the Huskies? You mentioned them earlier. They're going to host Mogador, which just beat Smithville. And then the Huskies, they've had Malachi Noletti and Tyler Smith just continuing to pick up off their good seasons last year. But really the defensive turnaround, I think what's impressed Coach Mike Toot the most. They came up with 4 turnovers last week. And then, of course, Western Reserve, in a battle of 2-0 teams, comes over to Norwing, and Western Reserve beat Black River in the final seconds last week.
The other of the three, the big three this year, excuse me, in the WCAL, Hillsdale Falcons make the short trip down to Loudonville to take on the Loudonville Redbirds in a battle of 2-0 teams. And Aaron, I think this one is really a big game for Hillsdale. They went 9-1 last year and missed the Division V playoffs. And with 5 teams in the WCAL off to 0-2 starts, this could be a pivotal game for the Falcons if they want to continue on to Week 11. As I touched on, the rest of the county, they're all off to 0-2 starts. Waynedale will be going over to Triway, try to get off the schneid as they take on their backyard rivals in the Titans. Smithville has had a problem stopping people. They'll go over to Fairless. Fairless has played some pretty good offense this year, so that could be a shootout. Mapleton makes the trip over from Ashland County to take on Rittman as the Indians try to pick up their first win of the year. Mapleton won last week, so the Mounties, it's usually about how many games they win in the season, so they're on a high coming into Rittman. Tipton will be at Dalton. I know I've read some things online that area coaches have said that this could be the best Timken team they've had in a while. They've had some decent teams lately, so it's a tough matchup for Dalton, but they'll be on their home turf with their outstanding running back, Chase Moyer. And finally, Columbia comes down from the Lorain County area down to Chippewa's Doylestown Community Stadium as the Chips look to snap their long losing streak against Columbia.
Yeah, as you were mentioning, 5 teams in the WCAL started out 0-2. The whole league really has to be rooting for each other to pick up some wins because you need to get those secondary playoff points. I think it seems like every year the WCAL gets 2 teams, but this week will probably determine if they get a 3rd team in, because once you get into league play, you're going to be going back and forth. So it should be interesting to see if some of those WCL teams can pick up their first win.
Yeah, it should be a real fun Friday night this week. You can read all about the games in the Saturday Daily Record Sports Extra, and we hope to see you here next week on the Daily Record High School Football Insider. Thanks for watching.